Next up this morning was supposed to be Brigadier General Phil Ryan, but the Army has kind of got him on the move right now. He is the Commanding General of U.S. Army Special Operations Aviation Command, but because he's on the roll, we have a substitute this morning who has just as much vision and just as much audacity as Phil. So we're pleased to have Colonel Roger Waleski, the commander of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, Airborne, to deliver his message. Roger, welcome to the stage, brother.
For the last 20 years, we adapted our skills to support continuous counterterrorism operations across the globe. And now, the 160th is changing. The world faces new multi-domain threats, a volatile global environment, weapons of mass destruction, space and cyber effects, integrated air defenses, and layered anti-access area denial systems. The Night Stalkers are adapting, training, evolving to meet the needs of today's environments. Developing advanced mission planning techniques to reduce exposure, integrating unmanned aircraft systems and air launch effects, building partner capacity, and enabling strategic competition. The 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment is ready to answer the nation's call once more, in any domain, arriving anywhere, anytime, time on target, plus or minus 30 seconds.
I like to think the last thing the enemies of our nation see is that MH-60 Mike passing across the moon before we unleash complete hell on them, but then I realized we don't do those underneath full moon conditions. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As noted, my name is Colonel Roger Waleski. I'm the commander of the 160th Special Operations Regiment. And on behalf of Brigadier General Phil Ryan, commander of the United States Special Operations Aviation Command, I want to thank you for attending today's presentation. Before I start, I also want to express my sincere appreciation to Quad A for the invitation to speak at this year's summit. It's a great opportunity to be able to discuss how Special Operations Aviation is adapting to the complexities associated with the competition environment, while showcasing how our current efforts can help solve the most complex problems for the Joint Force, and finally highlighting our innovation and modernization efforts that support our Special Operations Forces engaged throughout the world. However, to fully understand what we do and where we are going, I feel it's important you first know who we are. This is the command structure of the United States Special Operations Command. The United States Army Special Operations Aviation Command, our higher headquarters, is in the middle of the slide. Most people have heard of the 160th SOAR, the operational arm of our SOAC, and the sole U.S. SOCOM provider of rotary support for its operators. However, there's much more to this enterprise. On the bottom left of the slide, we have the Special Operations Aviation Training Battalion, SOAD-TB, that trains our Night Stalkers through a dedicated and rigorous program, and that ensures that we create highly competent Night Stalkers with the attributes and skills necessary to succeed in today's environment. SOAD-TB molds officers, NCOs, and soldiers from the regular Army and creates soft professionals through our selection and assessment process in our Officer Green Platoon, Enlisted Green Platoon, and Combat Skill courses. Next, the Technology Applications Program Office and System Integrations Management Office, through the leadership of Mr. Downer, ensure that we have an integrated and agile R&D and procurement program so we can rapidly respond to the changing threats that we see today. Next, our SOAD Aviation Maintenance Directorate, otherwise known as AAAMD, provides timely scheduled and unscheduled maintenance support to our rotary wing fleet that routinely executes over 41,000 rotary wing flight hours each fiscal year in support of the SOF enterprise. Lastly, I'll highlight a small but extremely important and agile organization within the 160th, the Special Operations Aviation Advisory Directorate, or the SOAD, which is our primary organization chartered to build partner nation capacity and enable our SOA global interoperability with our critical partners and allies. I'll touch much more to their mission later in this presentation. The concept that tomorrow is too late is a mentality that is ingrained in our Special Operations Forces. Competent Special Operations Forces cannot be created after emergencies occur is one of our 5 soft truths. This motto is directly derived from why Special Operations Command was created. U.S. SOCOM and the 160th SOAR were born out of the ashes of Desert One in April 1980 in Iran, in which 52 American diplomats were held against their will for 444 days. Established as a small nascent force in October 1981, and for its first 20 years, the focus of the Night Stalkers was counterterrorism. The 160th enabled our customers to execute the nation's mission anywhere in the world, plus or minus 30 seconds, developing new tactics and techniques to plan and execute helicopter missions. These operations included missions in Grenada, Panama, Iraq, and of course, the Persian Gulf. The poster on the left was seen in various publications in the 1990s, and I was still in high school, inspired many to try out for service as a Night Stalker. Since our inception, the ability of the 160th to own the night and utilize the element of surprise is all that was needed to successfully accomplish any mission. Following the events of 9/11 and for the subsequent 20-plus years, our SOA's mission remained similar, and the element of surprise remained critical to countering violent extremist organizations. Though our operational focus acutely narrowed in scope, our local flying area truly became global, ready to answer the call of our most senior leaders to the standards we established throughout the world, and especially in Afghanistan and Iraq. Over these years of continuous conflict, the 160th team flew over 262,000 rotary wing flight hours. And when you do the math on that, that actually equates to roughly 30 years of unceasing support of flying in support of our soft ground force commanders. But throughout these conflicts and engagements, we had air superiority. And as we move into great power competition, the 160th needs to adapt to harness the ability to own the spectrum and fly through and land in the most difficult conditions to counter our nation's adversaries during competition, crisis response, and large-scale conflict, and while ensuring the homeland remains safe. Now, as we look forward to the next 20 years, we are entering a stage of strategic competition with our peer and near-peer adversaries. In other words, we are at our next inflection point. This slide represents the current truth of operations that the 160th is either currently executing or preparing for. First, competition demands that our leaders, air crews, and staff have more than just good airmanship. They now require a deep understanding of the complexities associated with integrated air defense systems, nascent logistic infrastructures, partner and allied capabilities, and the international political challenges associated with operating in dynamic environments. Competition truly requires that our leaders follow the tenets of mission command. But make no mistake, our ability to respond to a crisis around the globe still matters. 43 years after Desert One, this organization really executed an embassy evacuation that required our team to traverse over 1,200 nautical miles under the period of darkness, conducting on average 17 helicopter air-to-air refuel plugs per airframe, logging over 14 hours of flight time in a 17-hour duty day, landing in the most hellacious dust to protect our diplomatic mission overseas. And within 24 hours post-mission, that same team recovered and ensured that all aircraft were fully mission capable, no kidding, ready to do it again. These actions are a direct result of our people and those legacy leaders who put their efforts into this organization and had spent their whole lives developing this team. So how do we plan for, fly against, defeat, and survive when we counter not just one, but many systems like this SA-2 Greyhound in the upper left-hand corner? And this has been one of the new realities since Russia invaded Ukraine. Now practically nothing is flying over that combat zone because of the lethality against rotary wing platforms. This is all because air superiority is no longer guaranteed. And this problem is a stark reality that we must face not only in Europe, but other potential conflict zones throughout the world. Unquestionably, we must work together as a joint force and with our allies to ensure we retain the enduring advantage of our adversaries in large-scale combat operations. But we must also adapt our internal training, our tactics, our equipment, and our approach to this menacing challenge. Today, we have the largest SOAD task force, supported by 3rd Battalion and under the leadership of Lieutenant Colonel Brian Merkel, supporting NTC 23 TAC 07, providing support to J.D. Kersey's 75th Ranger Regiment team in a LISCO scenario that models the distances seen in Europe and the denied area capabilities that we expect to see in the next flight. In January, the senior U.S. Army aviators met at Fort Novosel, Alabama to discuss areas of emphasis for the enterprise. And the theme of the meetings was speed, range, and convergent. The new Army Field Manual 3 TAC-0, published last October, shifts the U.S. Army to multi-domain operations and defines convergence, which is an outcome created by the employment of capabilities from multiple domains and echelons against decisive points with any domain to create desired effects. For special operations aviation to achieve convergence in the 5 domains, air, land, maritime space, and cyberspace, in the future operational environment, the 160th SOAD must coordinate, integrate, and synchronize these efforts across the intelligence, fires, and FEX domains to create opportunities for soft rotor wing to penetrate an A2AD system. Today, we're doing this through our Aviation Denied Planning Team, otherwise known as ADAPT, which is comprised of a small group of intelligence, effects, and aviation experts. Their efforts have ensured mission success during the most challenging operations that we've recently executed that require rigorous planning while creating a wealth of lessons learned that is being transmitted through the regiment, the conventional Army, and the Joint Force. As mentioned, the 160th is adapting its training program. Today, we additionally execute an annual brown flag exercise with the sole intent of preparing our most senior aviators and dedicated staff to plan, operate, and survive in denied areas. This multi-week exercise starts with foundational concepts on radar theory and uses our simulation capabilities to prepare our aviators for real-time flight training against advanced threats at low altitudes, under dark, multi-ship, utilizing different MDSs. The exercise continues with crews gaining invaluable iterations on electronic threat ranges and ends with a capstone full mission profile using joint capabilities and cyber and space enablers to successfully infill and exfil our most trusted ground forces. The lessons from this annual exercise not only prepares the 160th for complex operations, but also highlights our capability gaps that drive future fielding requirements for both SOF and the Army. Moreover, the exercise provides invaluable insight on the effectiveness of LPI and LPD communications and appropriate command and control techniques when we face this environment in the future. Please make no mistake, we have learned that over horizons communications will be contested, and the situational awareness that we enjoyed in Iraq and Afghanistan will no longer exist. Within competition, interoperability with our allies and partners will remain critical. And on this slide is the mission statement of our Special Operations Aviation Advisory Directorate, the SOAD, which is led by Colonel Chris Cook, our director. This team of Night Stalkers has regionally aligned elements ready to support the needs of our partner nations to expand the U.S.'s ability to compete while advancing, supporting, and leveraging the capabilities of our allies to contribute to integrated deterrence efforts. This talented group conducts training left of START and has enabled countless countries contribute globally to the world's security. As you can see, the reach of our relatively small SOAD is vast, as evidenced here through our executed engagements since 2020 and planned engagements through the end of this calendar year. The SOAD operates every day in phase 0, competing to build partner capacity and create enduring relationships in countries where we do not have consistent boots on the ground. However, our international initiatives extend beyond just the SOAD. Since 2019, the 160th has partnered in 4 joint combined exchange training exercises and 7 joint chief of staff exercises in Romania, Australia, South Korea, and many other nations around the globe. Within the 160th, we understand that innovation is a complex process in which good ideas can come from every level. In fact, the uniform I'm wearing here today was developed by our creative LC team and is now being implemented throughout our formation. Moreover, last year we conducted Project Genesis, in which Night Stalkers submitted ideas for implementation to get after our most toughest problems. One project pictured on the top of the slide is the lightweight wash system that support aircraft in a corrosive environment at a fraction of the cost today. Through Project Genesis, this system is currently implemented across multiple battalions in the 160th SOAR and currently deployed overseas within the Indo-PACOM AOR. Within the past couple of years, the 160th SOAR has also been experimenting with various types of camo wrapping for our airframes. We developed airworthiness releases for our aircraft to be camo wrapped for both Arctic and desert environments. We are not simply wrapping our aircraft because Americans want to look cool, because we're attempting to leverage techniques to hide in plain sight. Combined with international messaging, even relatively small changes create dilemmas for our adversaries and contribute to competition and deterrence. I also have to highlight the innovation of our MQ-1 Gray Eagle team. On the right side of the slide is our rapid transport system, which fortunately now comes in black, that significantly reduces our timeline to deploy MQ-1s throughout the world. This enhancement, in conjunction with our Gray Eagle miniaturized mission interface, also known as the Jimmy, provides SOF with a robust expeditionary ISR capability in a much smaller Stratair package than what we see today. I also want to highlight that innovation isn't always about tech. Our Regiment S2 section is driving doctrinal innovation and giving back to the conventional Army through a course called the Information Support to Aviation, taught on the Brown Compound at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. During 16 iterations of the course, we have provided 116 aviation intelligence professionals across the Army cabs with the tools, tactics, and procedures necessary to conduct aviation, IPB, in denied environments. Lastly, I want to highlight the regiment has routinely partnered with the Army during both Project Convergence and EDGE, advancing launched effects technology for both the Army and the 160th SOAR. Humans are more important than hardware. It's the first soft truth, and one that we live by within the 160th. Our aircrew and our weapon systems are nothing without the relentless focus of the men and women within the 160th SOAR. The Chief of Staff of the United States Army has stated people first, and I echo his feelings when I test people are our most valuable platform, despite the increasing costs of our aircraft and their associated systems. It is our people who will enable us to outcome our adversaries and help solve the most critical problems for the joint force in the competition environment. And that's why we are developing new courses to prepare our less experienced air crews and maintainers for the rigors of combat in the future. Such examples is developed within 3rd Battalion is our phased team leader course, and also throughout our enterprise, the maintenance readiness level programs that models AMRL to ensure that we have the right people conducting right maintenance at the right time. And make no mistake, that mantra does not apply to our air crews and maintainers. We value all MOSs throughout the institution, and we look forward to continuing to integrate our SEMA, cyber, and space professionals as we move forward in the competition environment. In conclusion, I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss recruiting. This week we had the opportunity to host the Vietnam Helicopter Pilot Association, and Mr. Art Jacobs handed me his business card at the completion on the Brown compound. On the business card it said, "Hire for character, train for skill." Perfect. We are looking for the right attributes in our assessment process. If selected, we will provide the skills, because as that selection process is why today we have over 40 airframes operating in multiple countries supporting this nation's strategic aims. The saying, "Night Stalkers don't quit," is just not a phrase. It is an ethos we truly believe in. Again, thank you for Quad A for having us here today in Armiation. We appreciate the time. Night Stalkers don't quit.
As you might imagine, he's just a little bit busy. And for him to take the time, come be with us, Roger, thank you. Very, very well done. Before I introduce